If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/Severe MMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 330 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, aka the Pod God, joined today by the Mark Coleman of Irish MMA Media, Graeme McDonald, as we talk about a pretty eventful week in the world of mixed martial arts, to be honest. And there's some big stuff coming up as well later on in the week. Before we get into that, we have two fantastic sponsors to tell you about today. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Autumn's in the air, the pumpkins are on the patch, and our friends at Manscaped are here to make sure you don't carve your pants pumpkins when you're grooming, if you know what I'm saying. Make sure you're keeping things fresh this autumn with the leaders in male grooming and their brand new performance package. Boys, get ready for a chuffing season like no other, ready to take that leap into autumn with the performance package. Join the 2 million men worldwide using the code SEVEREMMA at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping. It's time to bundle up the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, the brand new performance package. You'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker, nose and ear hair trimmer, the ball preserver, and the toner as well. The Lawnmower 4.0, we all know about it, 4th generation, features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents with the skin-safe technology, 4000 K LED spotlight to go on and off when needed. Also, the Weed Whacker to chop your worst weeds in the old nose and ears. 9,000 RPM motor powered, 360 degree rotary dual blade system to proprietary skin safe technology. Nailed the word proprietary there, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Seal the Manscaped's liquid formations as well. The crop preserver deodorant is absolutely fantastic, and the crop reviver as well to patch those whacking leaves. Manscaped threw in free gifts as well in the Performance Package 4.0. The Boxers and Shed travel bag. Get comfy on the home season. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code SEVERE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping with the code SEVERE at manscaped.com. Choose Manscaped this autumn. Your balls will thank you. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by our friends over at BETUS. Myself and Graeme had a great betting weekend there on the UFC 266. I had a 3-1 bet come out, and we both went for Robbie Lawler. You had Volkanovski as well by decision, Graeme, didn't you? I think so.
Yeah, I can't remember. Or Curtis Blades TKO I had as well, but that didn't happen. I thought, we'll get into the fight, but I thought it was there for him if he wanted it. But
we'll get into it in a second. But anyway, the sports betting season is in full force, as we know, with MMA, but also the NFL is back, and the Ryder Cup is on this weekend as well. You may already know this, but BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customers. That's BetUS.com. They have loads of bonuses. Join now or call 869-BETUS. That's 800-MY-BETUS. You receive 125% sign-up bonus by using the promo code SEVEREMMA. They have re-up and referral bonuses also. BetUS is known as America's favorite sportsbook for a lot of reason. NBA, NHL, NFL, player props and all of that. Loads of UFC bets with matches and props. The PGA golf and all the stuff like that. Casino horses. They have every bet type imaginable, and the Sharp Bet mobile platform is easy with full betting options. So follow the lead. If you're in the US or in Canada, online and social betting partner with for us with integrity and loyalty. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. Go to severemma.com/BetUS. Use the promo code SEVEREMMA. You will get 125% bonus when you sign up. You bet, you win, you get paid. Right, Graeme, let's get straight into UFC 266. So, and I want to start right at the top at the main event. Alexander Volkanovski. I tweeted it last night. This guy, he doesn't get the the acclaim he deserves. We spoke about it on the podcast last week as well, about how, and I think you called him like the most underrated champion in the UFC at the moment, and I go nearly further. I'd say in a long time he's the most underrated UFC champion. Like, this guy has taken on Jose Aldo, he's taken on Max Holloway, he's taken on Brian Ortega, who everyone raved about the last time, and he's not made easy work of any of it, but he's made a winning work of all of it. You know, what a great fighter. Sometimes, and you know, we've been starting this podcast recently, we're not just getting straight into the fights, but maybe getting into like something that we realize from the fights. And I think we realized it for a while, how good Volkanovski is, and some people have done it before us. Make no mistake about that now. But to me, like, I was talking to Harry over on Patreon recently about fighters kind of reaching this apex of MMA fighting at the moment, where the arts are mixed and where it's all kind of, you know, melded together really well. And I feel like Volkanovski is just so comfortable in there. You know, we often talk about it with young fighters coming up, as we look at them on the Irish scene here and their comfort levels in the cage. And it's one of the toughest things you can do, from the bottom level to the very, very top level. But Volkanovski, to me, and we'll get to the whole fight, and there was obviously a back and forth in periods throughout it, but he just looks so comfortable, he looks so slick, and he looks so effective as well in all his work. And I think it's time, like, just maybe he's not the sexiest name in the world, and maybe he's not, you know, Max Holloway, and people don't like him as much as him, and, you know, it's because, maybe it's because he's not American either, and things like that, and he hasn't maybe been a standout character on the way up like someone like a McGregor was, or, you know, even an Adesanya, or whoever else you want to see, or Rousey coming up. But he's a damn good fucking fighter, and he's as good a fighter as anyone in the world right now for me. I was so impressed. What did you think of Volkanovski? And not even last night, but in general, the level of respect we need to show this man, it needs to be up, doesn't it?
Yeah, another brilliant performance, another brilliant fight, another brilliant victory, another brilliant name. You know, look at his last five: Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, Max Holloway twice, and Brian Ortega. You know, that's a serious run he's been on there. And before that, in total, he's on a 20 fight win streak. You know, this guy is legit. This guy is, you know, as I said, he's the most underrated champion. He's one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC before last night. Maybe things will have changed. Obviously, you know, Nick Diaz coming back, we'll talk about that. But maybe, you know, that would have brought some eyeballs that wouldn't have been there otherwise. And, you know, if there were, you know, if people were watching that, I'm sure they'll be excited to see another Volkanovski fight. And, you know, Ortega the same. Like, you know, he obviously, it takes two to tango, as they say. But, you know, Volkanovski, I don't know how you, like, them five names are just listed. Like, you know, okay, there's a debatable, controversial, in some people's opinion, decision against Max Holloway in there, but really good fights against, you know, Max Holloway is you know, a brilliant fighter that everybody respects, that everybody believes is, you know, one of the best featherweights of all time. I wouldn't see too many people debating that. And, you know, this guy has 2 wins over him. He has a win over Aldo. You know, what more do you want him to do? He's going in there. He's in exciting fights. He's not reckless, but he's not you know, just pointing boring, people. Yeah, he's not pointing people. Like, he can go to that if he needs to, but he's willing to go in there and scrap and fight. And, you know, he followed Ortega down to the ground and, you know, nearly paid for it, but he's willing to, you know, believe in his abilities and his well-roundedness and his ability to beat everybody everywhere with his well-roundedness game. And he keeps such a pace that it's extremely hard. Like, you know, that pace would break a lot of guys, and nearly did break Ortega. And, you know, he's just an absolute handful for anybody. And he's just, I love watching him. And I think maybe, you know, I haven't talked to anybody in Australia. Maybe we could talk to one of your Submission Radio friends. But I'm sure he must be a big star in Australia at least. But now, you know, after this, with Nick Diaz on the card, with an absolutely amazing fight in the main event, you know, maybe this is the time that he finally does get that respect he deserves. And I thought his post-fight interview was good as well. You know, he kind of maybe came out of his shell a little bit more than we've seen him before. Yeah, but I even though I do think he has a good character, like, every time I hear him speak and stuff, he's funny, and, you know, he speaks well. But, you know, we saw look at a guy like Bisping, like, and I feel like the Australian, Irish, UK humor, a bit of action.
It's similar.
Sorry, I thought he put a bit of extra effort into promoting the fight. You know, he kind of said, "Oh, well, I was just promoting the fight," but all that stuff was like, "Oh, I didn't know about your failed drug test and all that stuff." That adds to the fight. Like, you need to make things happen, make people interesting. A little bit of a storyline, you know.
That's straight from the Graeme McDonald playbook, there, isn't it? Like, it's
well, like, you know, these things, like, I think, you know, these things should never be overlooked. Like, if you've popped for fucking something like steroids or something along those lines, I think, you know, that's a huge stain that should follow you.
Yeah, it's true. And like, especially for guys like that, he's come out before and said it like, you know, I think he's one of these guys that comes out and says a lifetime ban and stuff. So absolutely. But to me, you made a great point there about, you know, about the way he fought last night in kind of an exciting manner and wasn't afraid to try shots. It's a funny thing because maybe it's a discussion for a longer podcast, but also, you notice, and we've talked about it for years, fighters, when they get to the championship level and they kind of maybe feel 5 rounds, you have to kind of adjust your style and fight differently. And also when you fight guys like a Max Holloway, right, who you know is going to be a tough 5-round fight, very unlikely you finish him. Say someone like Woodley when he fought Wonderboy, very tough. You know it's going to be fight. You might finish Wonderboy, okay, but it's going to be a tough 5-round fight. More than likely you fight him again, it's going to be the same situation. And I feel like we spoke about Woodley after that, and it was like he couldn't stop fighting Wonderboy, you know, for the rest of his career. But it's not just Woodley. I think other fighters, they fight. Sometimes you fight safer when you become the champion, and it's a product, I think, of the 5 rounds and the fact that you know you're going to be fighting the best in the world all the time. And I'm not criticizing anyone for that. It's just the nature of it. But Volkanovski didn't last night. As you said, he went to the ground with him. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing at times? But still, it was exciting. And he trusted his ability. As I said, talking about well-rounded fighters, this guy trusts his ability in all areas. And I haven't gone back and watched some of his fights beforehand. We were talking about it on the Betting Show, maybe one of the podcasts this week. And I was kind of thinking whether he would do it like that, you know, because if you look at the Mendez fight, he's all out attack, you know, going for him. Whereas the Max Holloway, it's, you know, because you're fighting Max Holloway, it has to be a little bit more refined, where you know, you're still throwing shots and still doing good things. You know, when you're fighting a long guy like Brian Ortega, who against the Korean Zombie looked like, you know, everyone said like a technical wizard. Now, having gone back and watched it, I said it a couple times, I didn't think it was as good maybe as it looked live, but however, you're fighting this big, long, technical striker now that he's turned into, and you could have forgiven him for fighting a slower, more you know, orchestrated pace maybe, but he didn't. You know, he came out straight away. He was throwing big shots right over the top. We'll just a quick run through the fight and then maybe get to the little bits of intricacies. So great start from Volkanovski, the cut under his eye, and I think that changed it a little bit in the middle of the first round for Ortega. Ortega also got a cut over his eye, good in for a round, but I thought Volkanovski won that 2-0. Loads of right hands from Volkanovski in the second. He drew blood. Leg kicks from Ortega were actually very good, I thought, in the second, but mostly from Volkanovski. That right hand couldn't miss. The third round, we'll get to the third round. We get to the third round. The fourth round then, almost a guillotine after a slow kind of round, but Volkanovski landed on top and he almost finished him again. And in the fifth round, I thought Ortega came out and looked very good. I thought he won the fifth round. He just refused to back down after, like, the doctor asked him after the fourth round, "Are you all right?" And his answer was,
I think so.
No. His answer was, "I'll be all right." So that's basically no, not all right.
Sorry, they asked him, can you see? And he said, "I think so."
Yeah, that was one as well. It's just the unbelievable toughness of Brian Ortega. It's absolutely crazy how tough this guy is.
He got lucky there. Usually, if like it's not an eye poke and you say, "I think so," and you don't say, "Yes, I can see," that we've seen doctors wave it off. So
yeah, there were a few occasions where it probably should have been stopped, and
when he was kind of like pasted on the floor at the end of the round.
There was one when he stood up as well, and his eye was kind of closed, and Herdine was asking him how many fingers I'm holding up. That's one of those points as someone watching MMA when you're kind of. We've had discussions over the last while, and we've had a couple on Patreon as well about, like, you know, the rawness of MMA and how tough it is on these fighters, where like you're half thinking, right, I don't want this guy to go on because I don't want him to take any more damage. But you're also like, this is a fun fucking fight, and I want to see this continue. It's one of those, like, the heart and the head don't kind of follow each other in that situation, I think.
Yeah.
And
he kind of, you know, in this situation, he kind of, you know, he's so good at jiu-jitsu that he always has a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
But some fights where it's just, you know, maybe Valentina Shevchenko will come on to her fight where it's just, you know, it's
No
going
chance.
one way and that's the way it's going. So you might as well just call it a day.
Yeah.
But with Ortega, he'd shown that even after taking a bit of a serious beating, that he still possessed very dangerous finishing ability. Like, so I think, yeah, like in that situation, there's more kind of scope to let it go.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, but after that fourth round, I know we have a question about it. Maybe we'll get to it here, but on the Q&A, maybe someone said, should the corner have thrown in after the fourth round? And like, my first thought whenever someone asks that question is exactly what you said there. Does he have a chance to win? And like, he still did have a chance to win, I think, but it looked like he just wasn't there after the fourth round, but he was, and he kept going. But look, we have to talk about this third round, because I went back and I watched it, and so the first, I think, 2.5 minutes, maybe 2:45, were Volkanovski, you know, landing his shots, just winning the round like he did the second, and I think winning it maybe more clearly than he had even, and doing some very good stuff, closing the eye of Ortega, hitting him with some great shots. That fucking left hook was just money all night, and in the right hand coming behind it as well. You know, it was funny, we watched Usyk and Joshua. I thought it was very similar, and I kind of mused about that beforehand as well, at the spaces, and it bed off. But anyway, but then Ortega hit him with a big shot. I think it was a right hand, but anyway, he dropped him with a shot. And it was one of those ones where it's not necessarily you get hit really hard and dropped. It's one like you're kind of, maybe he wasn't expecting a little bit and he was kind of put on his arse. And like normally you probably pop back up, but Ortega, cute enough, was fucking straight on him, went straight down into the mounted guillotine, and I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, well, this is over.
Yeah, absolutely
like,
beautiful transition into
yeah,
the mounted guillotine. It was just like picture perfect, and you looked for all the world like, oh shit, this is over. But you know, in fairness to Volkanovski, he toughed it out, and you know, he immediately defended, and he showed like a level of toughness and technique in that moment. And I think Ortega and, you know, most of the people watching thought that was over.
Do you know what it reminded me of? Do you remember Joseph Benavidez versus Tim Elliott, where Tim Elliott was so got caught in the guillotine that he couldn't even tap, and he had to like tap with his feet. I know Volkanovski was like moving his feet and just trying to get any bit. I thought, like, it looked, I haven't gone back and watched it again, it looked like he was panicking in that situation, but he wasn't. Like, you could kind of see the calm come into him. He was just like, no, I'm not tapping to this. I just refuse to tap. And then he got out of it. But the most fucked up thing then was he got on top, he landed some good shots, and
he stayed in danger.
He stayed in danger, and Felder called it. Felder was like, watch the triangle, and straight away he got him in the triangle. And if you go back and look at the triangle, now I'm no jiu-jitsu expert or anything like that, but Brian Ortega, right, in the end of the third round, he's taken an unmerciful amount of damage, and he catches him in the move, right? He's T-City, Triangle City. This is Brian Ortega. You'd forgive him for just like, right, I'm going to pull down on this head, and I have this triangle, and this is it. I have to, but he does this brilliant thing where, do you know, like if you remember Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva, lots of fights where, you know, they get the triangle. You know, they always say the defense is get as close as you can to them, you know, get up on your feet and pushed your head right into the chest of your opponent, you know, so they can't get the squeeze in the triangle that they needed. If you look at what Ortega does here, he hooks the right leg of Volkanovski and he pulls him down so that Volkanovski can't base and stand up and get closer to him. And I didn't notice it, I haven't watched it back, it was brilliant to do that in that situation when, like,
was it not just, well, maybe I need to go back and rewatch it. I thought he just hooked the leg to make a circle, like, you know.
No,
like
no.
I must go back and look.
Yeah, he hooked him so he couldn't stand up and so he couldn't get out of it. But then he did get out of it as well, because I think like it was so slippery and bloody and everything, I think. And then Volkanovski kind of moved and kind of twisted his body to the left. You know, we talk about it as well with maybe guys with longer, bigger necks might be easier to triangle or guillotine, whereas Volkanovski's maybe size and his stature maybe saved him a little bit in that. But I thought it was brilliant work by Ortega. But for Volkanovski to survive that, like he was caught in both of them all ends up for me. I thought both of them were going to finish the fight. Did you think both of them were going to finish the fight, or was I just getting away?
The triangle, I wasn't so sure because he'd already gotten out of the the guillotine, and the arms are tired. I know it's a leg choke, but you do need a bit of strength in your arms, and we'd already seen him kind of come back from the dead nearly in terms of that guillotine. Like when he mounted him initially for the first couple of seconds, it looked done. And obviously the triangle is a little bit more of one that maybe he would have worked on in training. Mm-hmm. So I think it was close, but I think the guillotine was definitely the moment that Ortega missed.
Yeah,
or that Volkanovski avoided.
Yeah, that one was insane. I couldn't believe he got out of it. But after that, the fourth round, as we mentioned, just a slower round, but there was another guillotine attempt there. I don't think that one was as close as the other two, but Volkanovski got on top and he landed. I thought that was a 10-8. So
how do you score the third round as a judging expert?
I scored a 10-9 to Volkanovski, but I don't know. Thinking about it again, maybe it is the other way around. It's one of them. It could go either way. I think. I think Volkanovski had landed a lot of work in the start of that round, and maybe we forget that because I went back and I watched it. And I just watched that at the start, but then I watched the whole round again. He did land a good bit. But yeah, look, it's coming close to finishing. So maybe I'm wrong. But thinking about it back now again, it was just such utter insanity in the middle of that. The judges weren't thinking that way, but I was, and I'm sure everyone watching that round.
How close was Volkanovski to a finish at the end of the round as well?
Yeah, that's what I mean as well. Yeah, that's the part. He was very close to the finish at the end of that round. So, and he landed a lot of shots between the guillotine and the triangle too. So yeah, it was. I do think it was a Volkanovski round when you put all of that together, but Brian Ortega came close to finishing that fight twice in that round, so I could go either way, but yeah, I think it was Volkanovski. And look, there was no doubts about the result in the end. I think you could have given Ortega a couple of rounds in there, but Volkanovski he definitely won the fight, and what a fantastic fight. And also, I don't want to even talk about what's next. I just want to leave it at that because that fight was so great. We have Holloway versus Rodriguez confirmed now coming up at the end of the month, and maybe that'll be it. But we will leave it at that because I just want to leave that fight the way it is because it was such a fantastic fight and I enjoyed it so much. And Volkanovski doesn't deserve to have anyone else mention his name apart from Brian Ortega today. I think he is the best featherweight in the UFC anyway. I won't disrespect AJ McKee because I think he's fantastic as well, and Pitbull is fantastic, but what a featherweight division in the world we have at the moment. Just some fantastic fighters, and it's a joy to watch these guys work. And last night it was beautiful stuff. I absolutely couldn't have enjoyed it more than I did. The co-main event then was maybe the exact opposite to what we saw. Was Valentina Shevchenko. Look, I think with Volkanovski, he won the fight and dominated the fight for long periods, but all the time Ortega showed he had a way to win.
There was jeopardy the whole time.
The whole time. From second one almost, there was none in the Valentina Shevchenko Lauren Murphy fight. And you know what as well? I think Valentina, sometimes if you fight someone like a Lauren Murphy, with all due respect to Lauren Murphy, I think she's a very good fighter. I have a lot of respect for Lauren Murphy. But Valentina Shevchenko is on a complete other level to Lauren Murphy. Sometimes when you are Valentina Shevchenko and you're coming into that fight, you could be forgiven for taking a little bit easy or for not fighting the right fight against someone like a Murphy. But I thought Valentina showed her a lot of respect in the first round. She was picking her shots. She wasn't giving her a chance to clinch. She wasn't giving her a chance to use her strength at all. And she reddened her eyes. She got the takedown late. Look, I thought she dominated the whole round. I would have given that a 10-8 because she had all 3 Ds for me. But it was a very, very respectful sort of performance from Valentina then. And I thought it was the same for the next round and a half, maybe. Murphy did get a bit of a clinch at one stage, which is the only thing she showed in the whole fight. But it didn't do anything. Valentina's right hook was just there all day. The body lock takedown. She didn't land much on the ground, though. I thought she was, looking for maybe the submission, but she did win that round again. Round 3, a slower pace. Murphy was just throwing nothing and getting picked apart. And, I think Cormier was giving out about her corner, but what the fuck is her corner supposed to do? I don't think there's anything you can do when you're fighting Shevchenko, and in the
when you're completely outclassed, know, and your best game plan is just failing miserably, it's very difficult.
She was probably doing as well as she could. Let's be honest here. If you were to ask me what could Murphy have done, she did get a couple of clinches. They didn't work. She got thrown down by Shevchenko every time they got close. She got body lock takedowns. She got trip takedowns. There was just nothing she could do really. And in the 4th round, Shevchenko landed that shot. She hurt her and just ended up finishing her. I think it was Keith Peterson was the referee, and I think he probably stopped it maybe 1 or 2 punches earlier than he would normally stop a championship fight, but I don't think anyone was giving out about that, to be honest, because Lauren Murphy had taken enough damage. She was no way in the world she was winning the fight from that point. And another dominant, great display from Valentina Shevchenko. She's such a great fighter. It's weird to look at Valentina Shevchenko and think she's not the greatest female fighter of all time. She's that good. We have Amanda Nunes there as well, but you could argue, and I think most people probably would argue, that Valentina Shevchenko is technically better. Now, MMA is not all about technique, so I'm not saying she's the better fighter. I definitely think Amanda Nunes is, considering she's beaten her twice as well, and it's been 2 close fights, and I want to see him fight again. But what a fighter Shevchenko is. She's just brilliant, isn't she?
Yeah, that's nearly 4 years ago at this stage. Yeah. 5 years ago.
That was funny. They were mentioning that on the broadcast, and I was like, oh, it is. And she didn't have that many fights at the time, so that's a different fight now as well, isn't it?
Yeah, her record is 20, 22 and 3 now. So yeah, Amanda Nunes is looking for kind of big fights, and as a hardcore fan or as somebody inside the bubble, that would be a fight I'd absolutely love to see again. There's not many kind of trilogy fights that I'd love to see again where the same victor has come in both. But as you said, they were close decisions. I think the second one was a split decision even, and she's definitely improved since then. She's kind of showed her well-roundedness more than she had there, and a lot can change in 4 or 5 years. So I'd like to see that fight happen sooner rather than later. Yeah,
and the thing about it is there's really no next contender at 125. There probably is someone, but I can't really think of anyone straight off the bat anyway. And look, Pena is fighting Amanda Nunes. Maybe, and it's, I think, is it at the end of the year maybe? But hopefully she's let's do it, Shevchenko. Hopefully it's one of those ones. Let's get it on again, because I think they kind of need each other a little bit. With Cyborg gone, and Kayla Harrison's not here yet. These 2 women are the best. They are the best in the world, and they need each other. They need to fight each other. And the fucked up thing as well for Shevchenko is, we've seen lots of super fights in the UFC over the last few years, and the 115-pound division is such a back and forth of champion and different champion that she can't almost get the super fight against someone. She had the Jacek fight, obviously. She wasn't the champion at the time, but she had, the champion coming up. But they're just such a roundabout there. It is all the 125-pounders she's fighting. And, maybe Andrade wins a couple of fights and she gets back up there, but she got destroyed the last time as well. So it's tough to know really what to do with Shevchenko apart from.
You have the storyline of Amanda Nunes being the first double champion, and then you have, if Valentina can take the belt, then she's the double champion, and Amanda Nunes isn't anymore. And how many casual people actually know that they fought twice before, even if that is an off-putting factor. I think this fight makes makes the most sense
I agree.
by a long shot.
Yeah. I wonder would either of them think about like let's say if I wonder would either of them go for a 3-way champion, if you know what I mean. Like could Manny Nunes get down to 125 pounds? I don't know. Like
I don't know. Maybe over a couple of years, but.
I don't know. I wonder if Shevchenko won the 135 pound title, like the logical next step is to call her out for the 145 pound title and be the 3-way champion, which would be crazy. Like it would be like Amanda Nunes when she.
This is a fight. This is a fight that would be very dangerous for Amanda Nunes. If she'd have to be fully in shape, she wouldn't be any of this kind of like just way better than everybody, so I can turn up kind of half in shape and just beat them. I wouldn't be surprised, if Shevchenko won that fight. Obviously, like Amanda Nunes is kind of widely regarded, and I regard her as the best female fighter in the world. But this is a tough fight. Is there anybody else the UFC can put either of these girls in against who aren't going to be like a plus 1,000 underdog? You know what I mean? So
Kayla Harrison's the only one. No one in the UFC, I don't think. Yeah, not at the moment.
Do you want to? Yeah, and there's if you get Kayla Harrison into the UFC, I don't know if you want to rush her straight in. I know we've talked about this before, and it's maybe a point for another day. But like Valentina Shevchenko versus Amanda Nunes will be a huge fight for obviously the hardcore fans. And I think if you put that on a big card, a big pay per view with maybe another title fight, that could end up being one of the best pay per views of the year. Yeah, and could bring a lot of like attention to. Women's MMA. Obviously, women's MMA is fully accepted by the kind of MMA community, but I'm sure, with other women's sports as well, some people are kind of like, nah, but,
it's weird. Like, this is the thing we've kind of talked about before, maybe a little bit, but like women's sports is really being pushed really hard over the last while. And it's great to see. I'm not criticizing, but it is. It doesn't have to be an MMA, and it's a great, like, MMA is sometimes in a lot of ways a very fucking backward sport, living in the 90s wearing fucking tap out t-shirts and all. But it's amazing, actually. It's great that women's MMA has been accepted so wholly by everyone. It's fantastic. It's actually like it'd make you proud to be an MMA fan, and that's not always a thing we do. But it's like no one was giving out about Shevchenko being over Nick Diaz here. Remember when it started in the UFC, people were giving out about Ronda Rousey being over the Dan Henderson Shogun fight and everything like that. That's just not a thing anymore, and it's great. And I thought that's also a discussion for another day. But yeah, I would agree with that. And as well, one point here just before we move on. Joseph Benavidez retired last week, and I always make the point that they should have made Benavidez versus Mighty Mouse 3. They should have made it, and they waited too fucking long. Don't wait too long for this. We saw with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. You wait too long, and these fights go away, and okay, you're looking now, and there's no challengers for Shevchenko, there's no challengers for Nunes. MMA is a weird game. And did you see yesterday when Shevchenko went over on her ankle, she stood on Lauren Murphy's leg. I was like, well, that's it. You're one fucking stamp on someone away from a broken ankle and a year out the cage and losing your title. It really is. It could be that, and that's God fucking touch wood, God willing, that doesn't happen to anyone. Nunes, Shevchenko, fucking anyone in the UFC. I don't want that to happen to anyone, but it could. It happened. Look at Jake Ellenberger back in the day. He got his fucking foot stuck in the cage and he ended up losing. It can happen. And they need to get these fights done, and hopefully we'll be able to see that again. It's time. It's just time now at this stage. But another great performance from Valentina Shevchenko. Fantastic. Right, let's talk about Nick Diaz.
Speaking of anything that happened, you could get banned for 5 years for a bit of weed.
He got off of that. I thought Nick Diaz looked fantastic, to be honest. I was expecting him
in the first minute and a half. I thought he looked absolutely fucking all over the place, but he got into the rhythm of things.
Yeah, he did. It is true. It was one of those ones where he looked terrible at the start, then he looked great after like 3 minutes. Then in the second round he looked good as well. But then he got really tired towards like the end of the second round, and you're thinking like, oh shit, can he keep this going? And no was the answer to that one. But like, I want to see Nick fight again after this. I genuinely think coming into this fight, Nick Diaz just needed to kind of show something, and he needed to win something. He didn't need to win the fight necessarily, but he needed, like Nate against Leon Edwards. Diaz won about fucking a minute and a half of that fight, and you'd nearly forget Leon Edwards won the fight, because Nate won that. And now Nick won more than that. I thought Nick was, the better fighter almost in most of this fight. And I picked Robbie Lawler. I fucking bet on Robbie Lawler, so I'm not, a Nick Diaz fucking nut hugger or anything here like this. But I thought, and I know some people were saying he didn't look good. A couple of things. Nick came into this and he didn't look in shape at all, which I would think was an injury, because it has to be. Because if you look at the pictures of him from 2 months ago, he looked in fantastic shape. And then when he went down, he held his knee, but then he didn't really mention anything about his knee afterwards. And that made me think, it's like, well, did he have a knee injury coming into it? And he was kind of going to say it, but then he didn't say it because he kept going, like, no excuses, but I was kind of half expecting to lose like this. I don't know, but overall, that was a bit of a Nick Diaz rant there by me because I went all over the place. But for the fight that's in it, I love this fight. I thought it was really fun. Just two lads going out there. Robbie Lawler came straight across the cage and just went at Nick Diaz. And Nick was like unrelenting. He just refused to give up. And then we saw the Nick Diaz of old, just shot, non-stop punching.
8-10 punch combos, yeah.
Non-stop. And I wasn't expecting it. Honestly, I was expecting him to take a few shots and go over, honestly. And that may be stupid of me, but when you're someone 6 years out of the cage, it's hard to not expect that. And look, in the end, maybe that 6 years out of the cage did tell, but what a fight up until then. What was your take on the whole fight itself? I really enjoyed it.
It was great to see Nick back, and in the first minute and a half, I was thinking, "Oh God, this could be bad." But then he kind of got his timing, and his punches didn't look super fast. They never have, but I think they look a little bit slower. But that's when you're carrying an extra bit of weight and you've been out of the cage for so long. It's understandable. But he did a lot of the things that Nick Diaz always does. He showed like he can still do it. I think I don't think it's it's not one of these cases where the guy comes back after a few years and you're like, oh God, don't, like BJ Penn or anything like that. I think, with an actual good camp at his, not carrying extra weight, not like he looked a bit fat, like, let's be honest, like, so, obviously his cardio is gonna pay for that with his cardio. So, another thing I was thinking during this fight is, since the criteria has changed, like, although he's landing like kind of 4 of 8 punches in a combo, he's landing at like 60% or something. Like, what's the immediate impact of that? How is that scoring compared to like one big shot from Robbie? Yeah. It's a tough one.
Yeah, like 10 of those shots are not worth as much as one big Robbie Lawler shot. Yeah, 100%. I was thinking the same thing, but I think Nick does hit hard as well, though. You could see they were having a bit of, now he doesn't hit hard, but you could see some of them shots were having an impact on Robbie Lawler. They definitely were. Now, like, if he threw 30 of them, maybe one was having an impact on Robbie Lawler. But when you're throwing that many shots and you're Nick Diaz, that's all you need. But yeah, I would tend to agree. And like, that's the thing as well. We're looking if Jon Jones is coming back fighting again. He's a guy who throws a lot of shots, maybe not the most impactful shots. And it's going to be closer in fights like that. But that is definitely a thing with Nick Diaz, and it's a good point you bring up, 100%. But like, it's weird that Robbie Lawler's, like, his game plan was the game plan I think everyone thought he would come out with, where it was land the harder shots as Nick throws all the shots. And Robbie had, like, give credit to Robbie, he had to come through a fire to do that. It's not everyone is willing to take fucking 150 shots from Nick Diaz over the space of like 2.5 rounds. Like, that's a tough thing to do. Even, as you say, okay, Nick isn't hitting as hard as maybe a Tyron Woodley or an Usman if you're fighting in there, or even a Luke or someone like that. But he is hitting a lot, and he's cutting you up, and he's making it nasty, and he's throwing little elbows inside, little knees to the body and things, and a few leg kicks as well. Both guys were throwing them in there. But I think that kick to the body from Robbie was a very smart move, because guys, when they're out of the cage for that long, as you said, they have a bit of a belly on them, and I'm not one to talk anyway, but he did. They don't have that conditioning to the body they had when they were right in the middle of their career. And you hear all boxing coaches and all the MMA coaches, I suppose, talking about it, that conditioning to the body, especially if you're going 5 rounds. But it's something, if you don't have it, it's something that can be used against you to take you down. I think Robbie did that. And I think from that kick on, it just took the gas out of Nick Diaz. And he took it very well because he kind of ran around the cage and he didn't go. Usually if someone would take a knee at that stage, you see in boxing all the time, they take a knee, they take the 10 seconds and then they try to come back from it. And sometimes it's just not possible. Remember that Ricky Hatton fight that time where he hit the lad with the body shot? Was it Castillo? Was it maybe? I don't know anyway. But Nick, I think he played it off pretty well. But in the end, Robbie broke his nose. He hit him with a beautiful 1-2 and put him on a knee. And do you know what? I'd be interested to get your thought in the finish. But I thought Nick thought that Jason Herzog called it off because he was so disorientated from being knocked down. And Jason Herzog kind of went to him, do you want to continue? And he's like, nah, kind of like that. And maybe I'm wrong there now, and I could be. But to think that he knew he'd a broken nose and he knew he'd taken enough damage and he decided not to go on in that situation might be true because it's Nick Diaz. If it was anyone else, maybe not, but Nick Diaz has been in so many of these wars before. Maybe he is cognizant in that position, but it's very hard for me to think someone is cognizant enough in that situation to make that decision. But having said that, this is just my theory, and the latter theory that I don't maybe buy into, I think it's probably right. But what did you think of the finish of this one?
Well, when it happened, I thought, there must be some kind of injury because he kind of reached at his right leg, and I was kind of looking at his leg, and I could see a little kind of bump at the top of the shin. When I was thinking, I wonder what kind of injury it is. But then, as you said, he didn't mention that at the end. So I don't know. It's a difficult one to know what really happened. Maybe he just knew he didn't have the energy, and he was going to lose. And I during the fight, even I don't think Nick Diaz was his old self in terms of confidence, in terms of trash talking and throwing the hands around and kind of doing the things that he used to do. And at the end of the round, kind of signaling to the crowd, or even if he's been beaten badly in the round, he'd always flex his his arms, and he just seemed a bit lethargic. He seemed like he didn't really want to be there.
I don't know about that. I thought he threw his hands confidently, but everything else maybe wasn't as confident. But I was thinking,
when he's in a fight and he's a fighter and he's he's gonna fight, but everything else around it, when he went back to his corners and just his body language in there.
Do you reckon he needed to fight? Do you reckon if he fought again, it'd be the same thing?
It's hard to know. It's hard to know with Nick what's going on. I think a lot goes on in Nick's head. It's really, really hard to know what Nick Diaz is thinking.
Yeah, I didn't think that fully, but now that you mention it, yeah, I would agree. But I just thought he fought so well for that first 2 rounds, most of it, that I don't know. I think Robbie was always going to be a tough matchup coming back for him in this situation.
Did he try to slap him once? Did he try to mean mug him? Did he try to flip him off, shout at him, say, "Is that all you got?" Or did he try to get the crowd going? Yeah, he didn't.
It did feel like. After the Brett Okamoto interview, right? He was in the press conference and I saw him doing something else, and he was kind of acting like he was happy, and maybe it was one of those situations where it was kind of Nick coming back to get a bit of money, but he still did fight well. But I don't know, was this Nick kind of putting it on a bit, or else he was just working his way back in over 6 years? Now, I think Nick Diaz has given enough to the sport and been a tough enough motherfucker to warrant us giving him the benefit of the doubt here. So I will think it's him being out of the cage for so long and coming back against, a tough matchup. I still think it was a tough matchup. Robbie's no joke, okay? He's past his prime at this stage, but he's still hits hard. He can still take a shot, and, he's a very, very good fighter. And, someone suggested Nick Diaz versus Cowboy Cerrone, and I like that fight a lot. What do you think of that one maybe next?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. 170. Obviously, Cowboy, he's been fighting regularly, but he's definitely, on the downturn of his career. And it's a fight that, 2 guys that are known to the public, 2 fan favorites, and a fight that, is a winnable fight for Nick Diaz, definitely. So I'd like to see that fight.
Yeah, 100%. And look, for Robbie, he goes on as well, and it's a good win for Robbie. And we'll see what's next for him. But yeah, look, overall, I was just, it's maybe the fight, and maybe we buried the lead of this fight, but I think it was just a fun fight, to be honest. And sometimes that's all you need. And okay, we could talk about the finish, and you could talk about did Nick quit and did he give up and everything that, but like, I don't care, to be honest. Look, the guy was hurt. If he did give up, if he did quit, look, he's taken enough fucking damage throughout his career that he deserves to do that. He's the right to do that if he wants to do that. But to me, there was lots of shots thrown. Neither guy, to me, looked absolutely shot, or neither guy looked shit in there. They looked good to me, and it was a good fight, a fun fight with an ending, and a great win for Robbie Lawler. But Nick Diaz can take something out of it as well, and I don't think anyone would say I don't want to see Nick Diaz fight ever again after. And look, maybe they are, but I would like to see Nick fight again. I'd like to see Robbie fight again. So after a fight like that, I think that's a good thing to do anyway, or a good thing to say after the fight. Right, let's run through the rest of the card here as well. This card, it went from like very good fights to not great fights, and I think the latter there would be where you would put Blades against Rosenstruck. Blades was landing bits and pieces to not really much. A knee from Rosenstruck in the second was all he kind of landed, but he got the takedown from it and landed some. Round 3, Curtis got a takedown and didn't do much. It was not a great
I thought
fight,
Curtis was
really.
very conservative. I thought like the takedown was pretty much there whenever he went for it. Obviously, he got kneed once going for it, but yeah, like Rosenstruck was falling over like a bowling pin. He had no takedown defense, and he looked, even after being taken down in the first round and getting back up, he looked knackered. So I thought Blades probably should have got the finish there. He kind of said that once the eye kind of closed, he couldn't really see properly, so he just played it safe, which is probably understandable and smart. Rosenstruck's obviously a dangerous guy, and he's been hit with a knee on the way in for a takedown, so he's being extra cautious. But in terms of putting yourself in the title picture, it's not really that great of a performance that will catapult you there.
Looking at this, it was the number 4 and number 6 ranked heavyweight in the world. I was thinking, like, oh Jesus, that's not a great sign for the heavyweight division. But earlier in the card, we had Chris Dawkins, who looked fantastic. I thought he'd up the level. He looked really, really good and got the win over Shami, who's a tough out. Shamil Abdurrahimov is a good fighter, a solid fighter, and maybe people don't realize it, because he's a few losses in the UFC. But that's a good win for Chris Dawkins, and him and Aspinall coming together. I know myself and Spencer talked about it in the State of the UFC a couple of weeks back, or maybe even the one before it, but these guys are the coming guys. And that heavyweight division is a weird one, because at the very top it's very good, and then it's a quick fall off, but then it has some contenders coming or some new blood coming as well, so that's good, and that's what you need in a division like that. So okay, maybe a negative in the main card, but in the preliminary card, a good heavyweight fight. Finishing out the main card though was Jessica Andrade, or starting it off even, against Calvillo. And this was one of those fights, sometimes you're listening to the commentary on fights, and the commentator says, this person needs to get their opponent's respect. They need to land a shot. I feel like this was one of those fights where Calvillo needed that, and she didn't get it. It went 4 minutes, 54 seconds, and for 1 second, I didn't think she got the respect of Jessica Andrade. And
it's very hard to get Andrade's respect to stop her kind of bulldozing forward. And I don't think Carvalho possesses the power to kind of stunt that pressure.
Yeah, and it was just easy for Andrade, because she couldn't stunt the pressure and just kept going and going and going and going and going until eventually Calvillo could go no more, and she's so much venom on her shots. I thought it was a good stoppage as well, and I was very near the end of the round, but she just kind of bent over and stood against the cage and just basically had given up. I would love Andrade to immediately get a quick turnaround. It doesn't really matter who it is. I'm sure there's someone out there picking aim, and maybe do the exact same after that again to get yourself back in the picture, because she is someone who is a name, a former champion, who I wouldn't mind seeing fight Shevchenko again. I know Shevchenko destroyed her the first time, but she is if Murphy builds her way back up, I think everyone's going to go, oh no, kind of a job. But I think with Andrade, it is one you can talk up again, even though it went very badly last time. So hopefully that happens. I will pop back to the Dashvili Hooker fights, but on the undercard first, Jonathan Pierce, Omar Morales ended in the rear naked choke submission. Schmelzberger got a beautiful shot, an absolute a picture perfect KO, and a Coffinel came after it as well. The right hand as he was turning stances, I think they called it a jab, but as he threw it as, you know, the kind of the switch stance straight
like
shot rather than
than
the jab. Exactly, yeah, that's exactly what it was. But it was as he was switching stances, beautiful. And then the Coffinel come after. He's a guy you definitely have to learn how to say his name anyway, because he's a very good up and comer. He's the second fighter in UFC history to get 2 wins inside of 20 seconds. The other was Anthony Johnson, and he did it like 8 years apart or something. Schmelzberger has got 2 in the space of 6 months, so that'll tell you how dangerous of a fighter he was. But yeah, he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Nick Maximov then got a good win over Cody Brundage. You know, it was kind of a tough back and forth fight. It was a closer fight maybe than people would reckon. Round 2 was dominant for Maximov, but rounds 1 and 3 he didn't land a whole lot. Brundage was landing when he could, having some success. Closer fighting looked like that for periods, especially that third round. After that, then Jalen Turner, I thought he just broke Medic. He looked very, very good in there. Hurt to the head. The commentators thought it was the body, but it was definitely the head first. But he did go to the body after that. And look, Medic, I think he was so hurt that it was one of those situations, just sometimes when guys get knocked down and they're like a jiu-jitsu black belt and then they get fucking submitted straight away. To me, it was like one, and I'm not saying Medic is a black belt or anything here like this, but it was one of those situations where he was just so hurt there was no defending. And I thought the second he got that choke on, I was like, well, this is done, because he wasn't even defending strikes or anything properly. He was just so hurt by Turner, and Turner broke him. And he's another guy people need to be looking at, because he's a very, very good fighter, and I was very impressed with him. Talia Santos then against Roxanne Modafferi, a good win for her as well. She looked good. Roxy almost got the armbar early, but Santos, for most of the rest of the fight, won the stand-up, but also the wrestling. She looked good on top there. Hurt Roxy badly at one stage, but she continued. This could be the last we see of Roxy, and she's had a very good career. But good win for Talia Santos, and was on. I think she's 18-1 or something like that now. Mentioned the Dawkins Abdurrahimov fight, and then 2 fantastic fights. Dan Hooker against Nasrat Haqparast. You know, both guys had visa issues coming in. Haqparast's mother died only a couple of weeks ago, so a tough one. It was. I thought Haqparast won the first round. Hooker was going forward, but Haqparast was landing the better stuff off the back foot. Even though, you know, if you look at the numbers, Hooker had miles more shots, but didn't land anything of note. But in the second and third, he landed a lot, and I thought he won the third at 10-8. As my friend Adelaide Bird also gave it a 10-8, which was fantastic to see. But Hooker won that one. Even enough there. And first of all, what do you think of that one? It was for a fight that kind of came together on like 2 days' notice, even though it was like probably a few months' notice because of everything that happened. It was a pretty good fight, wasn't it? And Hooker looked good here, and so did Haqparast.
Yeah, I think Hooker was always in control. His wrestling looked kind of better than it's ever looked, and he was just more well-rounded, I think. I don't know. I think I don't agree with the first round. In the first round, I think Hooker mixed it up well, and did the better work. It wasn't a blowout either way, but I gave every round to Hooker.
Yeah, it was a close first, but yeah, I just thought he landed a little bit cleaner. But yeah, it was definitely close. But yeah, it's good to see Hooker keep on winning, because he's an exciting fighter, and you need exciting fights. He called out Beneil Dariush. I wouldn't mind seeing it, especially I think it's a winnable fight for Dariush, and I think he deserves, to get towards a title shot, and if he wins that, I think he'd deserve one, so I wouldn't mind seeing that fight. But then we had Merab Dashvili against Marlon Moraes, and did I call this fight exactly like it happened, or did I not, Graeme? I said Moraes should come out and he might knock him out early. He did. And then I said if he didn't, Dashvili would take over and end up finishing him. And that's exactly what I did. My 3-1 bet on the Severe May betting show. It was a pretty good bet. Pretty good call. But what a fun
very
fight.
Good call in the end. Yeah, it looked like Moraes was about to take him out, and he kind of emptied his tank trying to do it. And it looked like he just needed one big shot to finish a job. But he landed a couple of them. I think one was like an uppercut that looked like it would be a finisher. But Merab was just clinging on and staying tough and just not giving up and just trying to stay away by any means necessary. And once he got the takedown, or once he got on top, everything changed. And obviously Moraes had kind of emptied the tank, and Dashvili just opened up with great ground and pound. Really, a couple of times I wasn't sure if Moraes was kind of about to be finished. It was hard to see. His head was kind of pinned against the canvas, and he was eating shots, which is always not a good sign.
No,
but he did his best to hang in there, but he just in the end it was just the ground and pound was too much.
Yeah, there was a one stage at the start of the second round where he kind of got knocked down, and I was like, oh shit, his head kind of went to the side, and I don't think the referee was on the right side to see it. Not criticizing the referee or anything, but it was it was one of those ones where if the referee had seen it, I think it probably would have been stopped, and then it was just a prolonged beating after that. But that first
and if the
round,
ref had stopped it in the first round, there probably wouldn't have been too many complaints either.
It was like 2 10-8 rounds in one round in that first round. It was weird, and that's a tough round to score as well.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, which round do you think was more exciting, that round or the third round of the main event?
Jeez. I just think the third round of the main event. Because it was the Jeopardy, the title on the line. Yeah, it was just. But what a fucking round this was. It was great. 2 rounds of the year contender and this one, absolutely. And was it... let me just look through here. What fight was it? I think it was the Dawkins fight where Abdirahimov got knocked down badly and then it made him take loads more shots. It was Mark Smith as the referee. Just a completely late stoppage. It was so fucking bad. This Mark Smith, right? Oh my God, I really don't like him as a referee at all. And I have great time for officials. I always talk well about officials and I give him respect. This guy, he was on the Joe Rogan podcast and he's trying to be this celebrity referee and all of this. This guy needs to start going to the fucking local shows, reffing fights and saving the fucking fighters rather than, getting himself on Instagram and stuff. This guy is going to get someone hurt. He's made so many mistakes. I really don't like Mark Smith in the way he's ref fights recently. It's very, dangerous. It's very dangerous. But yeah, look, another good night as well for judging. And Brian Miner was on this show as well. We've mentioned him a few times on this when we're talking about judging, and it's good to see him out in Vegas as well. He's done a lot of the Bellator shows and things like that. So very good. Right, let's move on as well. Next week's UFC is a card. It's definitely a UFC card. Thiago Santos versus Johnny Walker in the main event.
That's an exciting main event.
Good fight,
It's a good fight, but yeah, it's not coming off. Obviously a pay-per-view and UFC 266. It's obviously a big step down, but
Ireland's own Johnny Walker.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, the main event should be fun, and the co-main event and the Jotko Serkinov fight are all kind of hard fights to call. So yeah, there's a good few fights that are hard to call on the fight, but there's not much name value or stakes.
It'll be interesting as well to see Kevin Holland coming back, and look, Kyle Dawkins, we saw how good his brother was last night. It'd be interesting to see if he's made similar uptakes in his game. But yeah, look, Jared Gordon versus Joe Selecki as well. That'll probably be a good scrap. It'll be one of them. Betch Caha's on the card. We all love a bit of Betch. Nico Price and Alex Oliveira, that has war written all over it. Casey O'Neill against Antonina Shevchenko. Now that's a very, very good fight. And if Casey O'Neill wins that, goes to 8-0, she's not going to be far away from a title shot, especially after beating the champion sister. And I'm not saying Russia or anything like that, but in that division with not many people in it, it's going to be a tough one. So look, we're going to obviously talk about that card more during the week and everything as well. But up and down, it's not a bad card, not a bad card at all. But maybe doesn't have and you wouldn't expect it to have the standout of a pay-per-view. But I think for Johnny Walker in that main event, that's a big fight for his career, because if you beat Thiago Santos, and I know Thiago Santos hasn't looked great recently, that means a lot, and that puts you into title contention. I'm not saying now he's going to get a title shot or anything like that, but you're going to get a bigger fight, and you're going to get someone who, if you win it, people will probably be talking about you as a title challenger. So huge fight for him, and huge fight for Santos to kind of get back to winning ways as well. And as you mentioned, Aspen Ladd, if she wins that, she's right into title contention as well. She probably should have nearly had a title shot by now. So there is jeopardy on this card, and there is stakes. Maybe not as a direct title stakes, but the step before the step, if you know what I mean, is going to be decided in a few fights here. So looking forward to seeing that. Misha Serkinov down 185 pounds as well. I know that's here, so that's an interesting one. Next week as well, there's a big Bellator card going down over in London. The rematch, MVP versus Douglas Lima. Leah McCourt in the co-main event as well. And we've talked about that Leah fight before. Let's maybe mention that before she's fighting Jessica Barga in that one. And a lot of people were kind of maybe giving out Leah McCourt is ranked number like 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that in that division in their rankings, and they're like she's fighting someone who's 3-3, but Leah's still very young in her career.
Yeah, about 6 fights into their pro career. Like I know she's ranked highly, but like the rankings, they mean absolutely nothing really.
Yeah, very little. And I think you're better off, and I think this is good matchmaking. Get Leah a fight against someone, who has, she won 2 of her last 3, won a fight on Titan FC, won a fight in Bellator. Her record maybe isn't as good as would suggest, but she has some good wins without a shadow of a doubt. And I think this is good matchmaking, and we can see what's next for Leah. Like her last fight was a tough fight. She almost lost it, but then she showed great heart and grit to come back and win. And it'll be interesting to see, when someone shows that and proves that, that's a big thing in MMA. Make no shadow of or make no mistake about that. And if you can put your technical improvements with that kind of the confidence you get from that, I think that could be a big thing. So, not the deepest division in the world, Leah McCourt, I would love to see her get 4, 5, 6 more fights here over the next year, 18 months, and improve, because, you're not too far away from the likes of Chris Cyborg, and you don't want that 6 fights into your career. Maybe if you're 10, 12 fights into your career and you've won all but 1 or 2 of them, then yes, but I think Leah has a long way to go, as anyone would at that stage of her career, to get to that level. And I think Jessica Barga is a good next step for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Before we get to the main event as well, Robert Whiteford against Andrew Fisher. I know Jake thinks that's a great fight. Our old English expert there. Yves Landau against Tim Wilde as well. A lot of good English fights on this. Bahati against trainer Uros Jurisic, 11-1 against Lou Long, the veteran, from down
British,
through the years.
Not English.
Yeah, British. That indeed. Yeah. Well, we won't get into that one. Kane Musa on the card as well. There's loads of good fights in this. Charlie Leary back after his win over Kiefer Crosby. So yeah, there's lots of Mike Ekendeu as well. Big Mike as Jay calls him. Watch out for him. He's a very good fighter, and he's fighting a lad who's 7-0 as well. And Jack Grant against Nathan Jones, former Cage Warriors welterweight challenger, who lost to Ian Gary obviously in his last fight, is on this card as well. So, but in the main event, Michael Minipage against Douglas Lima. Like, it's great to see MVP again, and I know he's only fought one human being in the world who is actually going to challenge him, and it's funny enough he's fighting the same one again in Douglas Lima. Douglas hasn't looked as good maybe in his last couple of fights, but he will be picking the shots against Page.
10 rounds of convincingly kind of losing in a row, that can get to you. And MVP's a dangerous fighter. I think it wasn't a fluke knockout, but I think it was if they fought that fight 50 times, that it's unlikely that happened again. What happened the first time? So. If Michael Venom Page can fight the way he usually fights, with that freedom and that flowiness and the creativity, and it's not in his head that he got knocked out here before, then obviously it's going to be in his head a little bit. But if it doesn't let it affect his performance, and he doesn't not throw his shots because of that, then I think MVP is going to win this.
I would probably just go with Lima, but I think it's going to be a fun fight. And for the state of that division, they'd probably be better off if MVP did win it. But it's going to be an interesting fight. And I think your points are right. And maybe now thinking about it more, Lima will be less likely to land that big shot now because of what has happened in the last 2 fights. But I'm looking forward to seeing it happen. Anytime MVP fights someone I know, well, most of the time anyway, I'm looking forward to it.
My league.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to this and see how it goes. We spoke about Irish MMA there a second ago. Big fight on Saturday. Mohamed Mokayev against Blaine O'Driscoll. I don't know if you caught it, Graeme, or not, but it was
Yeah.
a good fight. You know, Blaine O'Driscoll was doing pretty well. Makayev was...
It looked like the tide had turned. It looked like Makayev was getting tired, and you know, obviously he ended up getting that takedown and getting the choke. But I think maybe if Blaine had been able to stuff that, it would have been a different story. And if he had just kind of kept to his boxing a bit more, maybe not thrown knees and kicks as much, and kind of give those windows of opportunity to his opponent. But you know, it was a very good fight, and it looked like it. Obviously, it's you kind of have to overcome that initial onslaught, and I think Blaine did that. And then, you know, I think he'd be disappointed with it, kind of how the fight ended.
Yeah, I think as well, like, you could hear the corner going, throw that left hook, and as he threw the left hook, it's one of those, or left hook to the body, and that's one of those shots that against a taller, bigger guy like that, you have to kind of step in to throw it. And Makayev obviously heard it, you know, and was able to get inside and get a hold of it. It was like, ah, shit, you know, it was like, it looked really bad. But it was, yeah, Blaine is such a good fighter. He just keeps coming up against very good fighters, you know, Sharty Torres now, and Makayev. And that's what happens when you sign in places like Brave, you know. If he was in a cage where it's 125 pound division, I think he'd probably be a champion. He'd probably be on his way to the UFC. But you know, it's a tough one. Makayev is a very, very good fighter, and he's, you know, dangerous, and he ended up getting the finish in the end. But yeah, it was a good fight. I thought Makayev just won the first round. I thought there was a little bit more snap on his shots, but Blaine landed plenty of shots. He was stuffing the takedowns well for most of the time, and when he did get taken down, he was surviving, and he wasn't being overwhelmed. You know, he was staying very steady in there. And, you know, Blaine is someone who's probably trained with James Gallagher for a lot over the years, and James is a good preparation for someone like Makayev, because his top game is so heavy and he's so good on the ground. Now, different style to Makayev, don't get me wrong, but that kind of that blistering, like, you know, stuck to you like shit to a blanket, James Gallagher is very good at as well. So he's probably had very good preparations for a fight like this. But yeah, in the end, he ended up getting caught, and Makayev moves on. You know, obviously we're an Irish MMA podcast, so we're concentrating a little bit on the Irish guy, but make no mistake about it, Makayev, one of the best prospects on planet Earth, and he moves on. What's he, probably like 8 or 10-0 now or something like that. Very, very, very good prospect, and I'm looking forward to seeing his next 5 or 6 fights, and maybe him getting to the UFC then, because he's going to be a problem for a lot of guys, especially if his hands keep improving. If he can put the hands with the wrestling, and now he has the submissions as well, this guy could be a very, very tough guy to beat in a few years' time. So I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes next. And yeah, so as well, so the UFC Hall of Fame was this year. Hall of Fames, I feel like, are a thing we don't really understand here, but GSP went into it, and I think we can all understand that, and he deserves it. And we will talk obviously more about GSP, but the biggest story maybe to come from that was Jon Jones again was arrested. I like, it's weird because Americans, the legal system, whatever, they always have like this battery and like domestic whatever, and I don't know what that means, to be honest, and I think we might be better off holding off on this and waiting to see what the actual details. I haven't heard anything yet, but leaving that to a side, and we will talk about that again in the future. How can Jon Jones keep getting in trouble over and over and over again? And no, you know, there's a few other guys like that as well, you know, one of them not too far away from us, I suppose, but Jon Jones just he just can't help himself, can he? He's just one of those guys, isn't he?
Yeah, it's as you said, it's easy to assume the worst when it's Jon Jones and he's had previous, but maybe it is better to wait and hear what happens. But it's just another incident either way, and you know, it's come to the point really where at the start it was big news and it was big talk, and Dana White would have to go on SportsCenter and talk about it and blah 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 blah. Now it's just like, oh, another one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Luke Thomas mentioned as well,
part of the fabric.
Another thing happened during the pandemic, and everyone just kind of forgot it. Remember, he got arrested there as well. I didn't even remember it, and I was like, oh yeah, he did, but. Yeah. Was
that when he tried to do the sobriety test and he couldn't do it? Was it?
Maybe, or no, I don't think so. I think that was another one.
He was in a parked car or something, so they couldn't prove he was driving or something, and maybe he wasn't driving, you know. But so I don't know.
Yeah. Oh Johnny. Anyway, Yeah, I think that's it. We probably have failed to cover something there, but we look, we've Patreon for that reason anyway. So if we have covered anything, if the Q&A on Tuesday, hit us up. Follow me at Sean Sheehan BF. Follow at Graeme at Severe MMA, at Severe MMA Pod as well. The podcast Twitter, we have a good few followers on that, but I feel like more people follow along with that as well. You'll get all the Patreon podcasts in there as well. And sign up patreon.com/Severe MMA Podcast. I'm telling you, Patreon has changed in the last 2 weeks. And it's become a different level. Graeme, you have some fantastic interviews coming up over the next while. I don't know. Do you want to throw one out there for anyone that's coming up? Do you want to tell people one that's coming up in the next couple of weeks? Go on, give us a name.
Well, I'm just gonna obviously do a little. Severe MMA is about to turn 10 years old, so I thought it'd be a good time to kind of talk with some of the guys that we've worked with over the years and whose careers we've kind of followed, and kind of get a bit of a podcast series going there. So yeah, I think I have a few in the bag or in the can already, and there's still a few more I'm waiting to do. So yeah, I think it's turning out pretty well.
Yeah, it is. I've listened to a few of them. There's some very, very good stuff, and there's a new podcast coming up with me and Harry on Wednesday as well. We have a Chasing Pack episode already in the books that has been recorded. That will be going up this week. The Q&A, as I mentioned on Thursday. There's so much stuff. Now is the time. Patreon.com/Severe MMA Podcast. If you go to severemma.com/pints, literally costs the price of a pint a month. It'd be really, really helping us out. We have to wait a half an hour before this podcast because my fucking laptop wasn't working. So I need a new laptop. So if you want to help us out, sign up there. Patreon.
Online begging.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. Right, we will leave it there. Thank you to everybody for listening. We really appreciate the support and the listens. If you could share this podcast, even if you don't want to sign up for Patreon, that'd be fantastic. Tag at Sean Sheehan BA, tag at Severe MMA. We will retweet it, and we will be your friends forever and love you very, very much. Subscribe as well, iTunes, leave a review and all of that. We don't ask for it too often.
And if you do sign up for Patreon, you get to your question answered guaranteed every week on the Patreon. You get to request topics. There's loads of interaction on our Patreon. So if you want to get more involved, that'd be great and would help us. And we think the content's worth without a shadow of less than the price of a pint. So
without a shadow of a doubt. And I wouldn't ask someone for a $5 if I wasn't giving them a $5 worth. I can assure you that. So right, thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you all next time. Good. Actually, Graeme, before we go, do you have an inspirational quote of the week? I don't have one. Throw one out at us there. Go on.
Oh, God. Win or learn.
I'll see you next Tuesday. Or Sunday, probably.